So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being on this call with us today. This is how to manage I'm not even reading it right. How to manage those who don't want to work, something like that.
How to manage when no one wants to
No
work.
one wants to work. I can't even write a thing. Anyway, so we have with us today Ralph Peterson with the Standard and Health Rehab, Training and Rehab. And he has done a session for us back in the late summer or early fall, I believe. It was really good. Very interesting, kept you on your toes. And as I said, he does ask you questions. So Ralph, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yes, last year it was CDC guidelines for housekeeping and EBS in senior care and long-term care facilities. And this year, towards the end of last year, I was getting a lot of requests for a little bit more of a foundational understanding of how to manage when you're short-staffed, which is truly what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how do you manage a housekeeping and laundry department when you don't have as many housekeeping and laundry workers and floor techs as you normally would have. This is, of course, a question that everyone in long-term care is asking. It doesn't matter what department, dietary, nursing, activities, all of us are struggling with how to manage when we're being short-staffed. But we're going to take it one step at a time here. We're just going to go through and talk about exactly how we do it here at the Standard Health and Rehab, how we manage being short-staffed. And by the way, managing short-staffed is not just about who shows up in the morning, so how we start our day, but it also, a lot of times at randomly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we get a notification that there's a late admission, there's a room change, there's something there's a discharge clean that needs to be done. There's something that's going to need our attention. Does that happen to anybody here? Just me? Okay, so those late changes in the day also causes an awful lot of challenges with us here in the housekeeping department. So that's really what I want to talk about. So I want to talk about both how to manage being short-staffed and how to pivot, recalculate, if I may, recalculate during the middle of the day. Is anybody familiar with the Waze app? You know, the whole GPS Waze app. It's such a wonderful tool because it tells you where the police officers are, where if there's a pothole, if there's bad traffic or bad weather. But for our purposes, I think one of the best lessons that we can get from a GPS or the Waze app nowadays is if you've ever put in a destination on your Waze app and you're going along and you accidentally take a left turn somewhere or a right turn somewhere and you get off of course, most of the time, there are times when it says, make a U-turn because you're completely going the wrong direction. But most of the time, it just simply says one simple word. It says recalculating. And it will, even though you've gone off track, even though you've lost your way from where you were intending to go, it will say, all right, from where you are now, just go here. So we're going to recalculate. So this is where you started, and this was the route we were going to take. But now that you're off course, no worries. Let's recalculate to get you back on course. And it's going to take you a new way, a different way, because you are on a different course, but it's still going to keep moving you forward. Is that fair? That is, in essence, if I could sum up management, that's management. Having the ability to recalculate, having the ability to continue trying to stay on course, continue trying to get your job done throughout the day. That is truly what we're going to be talking about today. How do you stay on course? And when you get off of course, how do you recalculate so you can still get the most important elements of your job done? Which of course is the question, what are the most important elements of your job? I know we're going to get there in just 1 second. But first, for those of you who don't know me, just let me tell you just a quick little bit about me, just real brief, because I want to convince you that you should pay attention to me, that you should listen to me, that you should take notes, that what I'm saying is important. And it really, 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 really can make a difference in the outcome of not only your job, which is on the surface, if we're above surface, my job right now is to tell you how to do your job a little better. But if we go beneath the surface, and I'm not even talking about very far beneath the surface, just slightly beneath the surface, I can tell you what my real job is. My real job is to get you better and understanding what management is and how to do it so that you can grow to be an incredibly more experienced, more effective manager. So then you are calling the shots. It's not just where you are now, it's where you could potentially go in management, because management is one of those jobs. It's one of those fields where, you know, what's the best idea? It's the best visual idea I can give you is imagine a tent. And then the tent has 4 poles, and in the center it has 1 large pole. A manager of any department or facility or a business is the center pole. That center pole has to be the strongest pole. It has to be the tallest pole. It has to be the most reliable pole, because that pole, that center pole, holds up the bulk of all the tent for all the other poles. And of course, the other poles, those are staff members, those are employees. And so the stronger you are in management, the taller you are in your understanding, if I can use that vernacular, the more you're able to hold up that tent for your employees and create a space underneath that tent for your customers. Is that fair? Does that make sense? By the way, while we're on the subject of your customers are the only people, the only ones in the entire world who can tell you whether or not you're a good manager. I know, kind of stinks, because we think that our employees tell us. We get a good gauge from our employees to tell us if we're doing a good job at managing. No, that is not a good gauge. It's a good gauge to find out if you have some good engagement, if you're having some good, clear communication skills. But when it comes to management, only the people who are subject to your product or your service can be really objectionable on whether or not you're actually getting the job done, which is, of course, to provide the service or the product for them, the customer. So all that being said, let me just tell you about me. I have been, well, let me start here. I got my first management job when I was 16 years old. The first time somebody said, you look like you could be in charge, let's try you out. I got my first management job as working as a landscaper for a landscaping company, mowing lawns at 16, and I was fired 8 minutes later. 8 minutes. I had to manage my first management job at 8 minutes. After that, I got fired 5 more times. 5. I have been fired 5 times from a management position. 5. I'm going to tell you, every single time that I was fired from a management position was because of the same reason. All of them were for the same reason. It's because I didn't know how to manage. I didn't understand what management really was. I thought that management was all about how you talk to employees. I thought management was all about being a good guy, being somebody who people liked to be around, being somebody who people could confide in and talk to, people who would enjoy working for me. I thought, and honestly, if you would have asked me years and years ago how I would have known if I was going to be a good manager, how could I tell? I would say, oh, my staff would love me. That's my gauge. My gauge is my staff would love me. The truth is, staff have zero to do with the quality of a manager. It's actually the customer, like I said. But it's the chicken and the egg syndrome was what I suffered from. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And the truth is, in management, it's the system. I always thought it was the employee and then the system, then the operation, then what we are doing. It's not. It's the operation and then the employee. Meaning, how good can you manage your employees if you don't know the system? Not really good. Conversely, how good can you manage your employees if you really know the system well? Well, it's a no-brainer. You could manage them extraordinarily well. So with all that being said, I'm going to share my screen on my lovely little iPad here. And let me see. We're going to start getting right into it. Does anybody have any questions? Like Paula said, don't be afraid to just unmute yourself. I'm not looking at the chat box generally. So it's much better if you just tell me if you have any questions, just to speak up. How do you manage when no one wants to work? I just told you about me, who is Ralph Peterson. And so here we go. Here's the first thing that you have to do when you're deciding how to manage when no one wants to work. The first thing you want to do is come up with your cleaning methodology. I'm going to just call it your cleaning method. How do you clean? What is your intention for your cleaning department? And everybody has different intentions. Everybody has different methodologies of cleaning. I'm only going to share mine just so I can show you how I modify it. Is that fair? So as I go through, I'm just explaining how we do things so that we can show you how we modify it. And then you can just overlay that on how you do things. We break up our housekeeping into 3 different categories. So number 1, it's presentation. That is, how does the facility look? Right? We do this twice a day, by the way. We do it in the morning when we first get there, and then we do it in the afternoon before we leave. Presentation. By the way, presentation, here's the big number, 70%. That's how much everybody judges the housekeeping department on the way your facility looks. How your facility looks dictates 70% of the time how people feel about how good of a job the housekeeping manager and the housekeepers are doing. 70% visual, which is challenging when you consider how much we have very little control over who throws what on the floor and what messes are caused. We don't prevent messes. It's unfortunate. We'd like to be able to be in a position to prevent messes, but we don't. Number 2 is disinfecting. The second part of our cleaning methodology is we want to disinfect the entire facility. By the way, just let me put these in here. Let me just move my little thing here. And this we're going to do 2 times a day. The presentation twice a day. Disinfecting, we're only going to do 1 time a day. And by the way, just so we're all on the same page, disinfecting an area 1 time a day is the CDC guideline. It has been the CDC guideline even before the pandemic. Even when the pandemic came out, the CDC did not recommend that you disinfect areas more than 1 time a day. The Department of Health may have, depending on your state. Some Department of Health were, you need to do it 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 8 times a day. We want you to constantly disinfect. But the CDC never changed their rule. So disinfect, and we're going to do it 1 time a day. And number 3 is part of our cleaning methodology is we're going to do a project work. We're going to do a project, and that's going to be 1 time a day. Actually, this project work, let me be more clear, is 1 time a month. So we're going to do project work 1 time a month, which means we're going to have to do something every day, a piece of a project every single day in order to get it all done within an entire month. So the intent of each of these is this number 1 is to see. That's what we want to do. We want to visually see all resident areas, all resident rooms, at least twice a day. That's our intention with the presentation. We want to walk in the morning and we want to see every resident room. We want to, as a matter of fact, we even tell our housekeeping managers as a best practice to always walk in the facility through the front door. And if you're in one of those buildings where the parking lot's in the back of the building, and so you walk normally through the service entrance, and right in front, right when you walk through the service entrance, your office is right there. And so you can get stuck in this trap where you walk in the door and you go boop, right into your office and you don't see the building at all. Let me just give you a little warning out there. That is really a challenging, you're going to could find yourself in a really challenging loop. For best practices, I would invite you to consider, even if you come into the back door, to walk all the way to the front of the building, walk outside, literally walk outside of the building, turn around facing the front of your building and start paying attention to the presentation. How does it look? Does the glass on the door need to be need to be cleaned? Are there pillows and chairs that have been moved overnight for some reason in our front lobby? I don't know what goes on there, but we'll find soda pop cans, and we'll find bags of, of fast food wrappers, and the chairs are always in a semicircle. They're never where they were when we left. Pillows are discarded and all that stuff. And then if there's snow, I know we're expecting a storm this week and this weekend, perhaps. Here in New York, we are anyway, up in the Northeast. Salt and sand in the grime. And so managers walk through that front door looking. Look, I'm not asking you to clean anything. I'm asking you to look at it. Pay attention to how your facility looks, because again, 70% of the time, that means 7 out of 10 people who walk in that front door into that nursing home or into that senior care facility are going to judge you on the way that carpet looks, on the way the pillows look, on the way if there's a can or a bag of fast food garbage out. You're going to be judged on that. So make sure you're seeing that best case scenario. Presentation is key for us. We do it first thing in the morning when we start, and then we do it in the afternoon right before we leave. We kind of like to hand off the building. We like to, what we say, we hand nursing a clean building. Here you go, my lords. Here's your clean building. We'll be back in the morning when it's destroyed. Disinfecting, I already talked about that. You already know the point of disinfecting. But for us, disinfecting, I apologize. I know I'm talking fast, so you just have to listen fast. I apologize for that. We don't have a lot of time, so I got to get through this information. Disinfecting is only workable surfaces. A workable surface is anywhere anybody can touch without moving anything. In other words, if you looked at the front of a dresser here, hold on, let me show you my resident room here. This is my mock-up of a resident room. You guys can see this. This is my front door, my front door here. If you walk in, this is a dresser. This is a dresser. This is a bed, obviously. This is a bed. These are overbed tables. This is little trash cans. This is a bathroom. This is a bedside table. We have 2 of them, of course. So if you look at this room, traditional resident room in a nursing home or a senior care facility with shared rooms anyway, this is a semi-private. This edge right here, let me highlight it. This edge right here of the dresser, around the bed, the frames of the bed, the heater, the frames of this bed, the entire overbed table, the edge of the entire overbed table, maybe the edge of these bedside tables, the door frame right here, little door knobs when that swings open. All of those are what we call workable surface areas, meaning anybody could walk in this room, anybody can just walk in this room and touch these areas. Anybody can place their hands on here. And if they have any kind of disease or any kind of virus or a little gunky, yucky stuff on their hands, they could potentially be infecting or spreading some germs and getting them on these workable surface areas. So when I'm talking about disinfecting, I'm talking about only touching these workable surface areas. When we talk about project work for housekeeping means we pull the room apart. We do what we call a complete clean. That's when everything is clean. The beds are wiped down, the mattresses are wiped down, the bed frames are wiped down, the walls are wiped down, the dressers are actually moved away from the walls, and we're sweeping and mopping behind the dressers. Everything off of shelves are being taken off, and all the knickknacks are being wiped down. That is a complete room, which we do every single day, 1 room per unit, 5 days a week. So Monday through Friday, that's our project work. Does this make sense as far as what a workable surface area is and what project work is? Is that clear? Questions? Anybody? No? Okay. So first step is to identify what your cleaning methodology is. This is our cleaning methodology. Step 1, presentation. Step 2, disinfecting. And step 3 is project work. All of these are done every day with the goal of every room being done every month for project work, to every room being disinfected 1 time a day, and every room being seen twice a day for presentation. That's our methodology. Step 2 of this is now what we have to do is create a workflow. In other words, when we're creating a workflow, here, let me show you my building first of all. Maybe this will be a little more helpful. When you're creating a workflow, so this is the standard health and rehab. It's a 100-bed building. They are all semi-private rooms. We have 3 halls. We have East Hall, which is our longest hall. We have West Hall, and then we have Short Hall. And Short Hall is not the size of the hall, even though it is a short hall. It's rehab. So our rehab, our therapy unit is right here. So our short hall is really short hall rehab. It has nothing to do with the length of the hall. So this is our building. And with this building, because it's 100 beds, and they're all semi-private, which means we have 50 rooms, resident rooms, and we have 2 housekeepers, and they each clean 25 resident rooms. 25, by the way, is the sweet spot for our cleaning methodology. You may have a different cleaning methodology and it will dictate how many rooms you have to clean or could clean, and which may be more or less than 25. For us, the sweet spot is 25 for our cleaning methodology. So what that means for us here at Standard Health and Rehab is we would like to split the building down in half. But as you guys all know, there's no such thing as splitting a building in half, because this side is smaller than this side. And all of our employees deal with one currency, and that currency is called fairness. And so it has to be fair. And so actually what happens, there's actually 22 rooms on this side, and there's 28 rooms on this side. So we actually take 3 rooms from this side and we make them this housekeeper. So I'm going to erase all this just to show you actually how it looks, how we divvy up this space. It goes like this. This is how we do it. It goes like this. This is West Hall and this is East Hall. Does that make sense? And that way they each have the same amount of space to clean. They each have 25 rooms, and then we split up the non-resident areas in the office space so that it is even Steven. Fair? Cool? Everybody on the same page? Okay. So that's our room. And when we're talking about a workflow, I'm actually going to talk about when I create my workflow, what I'm talking about is actually a timeline. So we start at 7 a.m. and we end at 3 p.m. At 12 p.m. we have lunch. At 9 a.m. we have a break. At 2 p.m. we have another break. And then we need to try to figure out how to get our building clean between these breaks, between 7 and 3. Is that fair? Does that make sense to everybody? Everybody's on the same page? Okay. So how do we do it? This is just like a little visual representation of a day in the life of a housekeeper. And so this is my little housekeeper over here, and we start at 7 a.m., like I said. At 7 a.m., my housekeeper is going to go to the unit. This is their unit, and they're going to do a walkthrough. This walkthrough is presentation. I want them to see every resident room. I want them to make sure there's nothing on the floor, no garbage on the floor, nothing spilled on the floor. I want them to look at the garbage cans. Does the garbage can need to be emptied? That's an interesting question, because if it does need to be emptied, we empty it. If there's something on the floor that needs to be picked up, we pick it up. We look at supplies as well. If they need toilet paper, paper towel, hand soap, hand sanitizer, we'll replace it. But otherwise, we're not cleaning anything. It's only presentation. They're going to get done this by 7:30. 7 to 7:30, they're doing the walkthrough. Does anybody want to take a wild guess on why they have to be done by 7:30? You can write it in the chat, or you can just talk.
Because breakfast comes out.
Breakfast comes out. Perfect. Perfect. So at 7:30, they're going to go to their offices. Offices are cleaned between 7:30 and 8:15. Why 7:30 and 8:15? Because it takes about 45 minutes to clean the offices. And if I can just give you a little, let me just show you here on this map. Actually, I have a different one. Maybe this one will be a little easier to see just because it's all labeled. so you can see this one, because this map's all labeled. So you can see, I'll use a little highlighter. The office space includes all of this area. This is all the lobby, the business office, the conference room, the administrator's office, the DON's office, the reception area. We have staffing area over here. This is the employee break room. We have a couple of staff bathrooms, public bathrooms. We have a dining room over here. We have the kitchen, but we don't clean the kitchen. So we'll go ahead and black that out. The kitchen clean themselves. We don't clean the kitchen. We have a beauty parlor. We have an activities room, an activities office. We have therapy, conference room. We have a med supply. These are basically all our office spaces. And then when we get into, let me use a red, I'll use a pink. The next thing that we do I'm going to be giving you guys all whiplash as I go back and forth. I apologize. So from 7:30 to 8:15, we're cleaning office space. This is actually cleaning, hitting everything with disinfecting, all workable surface areas. Then we're going to go do our non-resident areas. Non-resident areas are from 8:15 till 9 a.m. Non-resident areas, that's the question. Like, what's a non-resident area? A non-resident area is an area on the unit that is not traditionally used by residents, especially first thing in the morning. So we have shower rooms. Shower rooms are generally not used first thing in the morning. Sometimes they are, depending on the resident and the schedule. But then we have the kitchenette, we have the med room, we have the nurse's station, we have the clean and soiled utility room. We have them on both sides. So you can see how it's pretty even on what it is that we're going to be cleaning for the non-resident areas. So it goes, again, sorry about the whiplash. It goes from 7 to 7:30. We're doing a walkthrough of the resident areas. From 7:30 to 8:15, we're going to clean our offices. At 8:15 till 9, we're going to clean our non-resident rooms. And then we're going to take a break at 9 a.m. to 9:15. Everybody tracking with me so far? This is important. I'm laying a foundation. We're going to get to how to modify this, but first I need to set this foundation. At 9 to 9:15, we're going to take a break. Now, at 9:15, this is when we actually start cleaning resident rooms. We haven't started cleaning resident rooms yet. We've done a walkthrough. We've seen as many resident rooms as we can between 7 and 7:30. And we've cleaned non-resident areas and we cleaned offices, but we haven't cleaned resident rooms yet. We don't actually start cleaning resident rooms until 9:15 in the morning. Now, we're going to start cleaning resident rooms. We have 25 to clean. We're going to start cleaning resident rooms at 9:15 until 11:15. At 11:15, that's when we're going to do our project work. That's when we're going to do our complete clean. That's when we're going to rip a room apart. We're going to pull the beds away from the wall. We're going to pull the dressers away from the wall. We're going to wipe down the beds, the mattresses, the bed frames, clean behind the dressers, under the beds, the windowsills, the walls, maybe change cubicle curtains. All of that is from 11:15 till 12 o'clock. So it's 45 minutes to do a complete clean in this area. At 12 o'clock, they take lunch. So 12 to 12:30 is lunch. Fair? After lunch, and you can see my little squiggly line here, this is because I'm always trying to chase my staff back to work. They're always out smoking, taking extra breaks. I didn't get to lunch until late. I came late. I need to leave early, all this stuff. So maybe it's just my staff, but it's a hassle. So hence the squiggly line, getting them back to work. At 12:30, they go back to work and they are continuing their clean and disinfecting until 2 p.m. At 2 p.m., they're going to take another break. Right here, break time, till 2:15. At 2:15, they're going to do another walkthrough. This is, again, presentation. Once again, seeing resident rooms, and this time, we're actually going to be looking at non-resident areas as well, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure the front lobby looks good, the public bathrooms look good, that the nurses station looks okay. There's a bathroom at the nurses station that's only used by nurses. We need to make sure that looks okay. So there's a lot of presentation, a lot of just making sure everything is okay, last minute straightening up before 2:45. At 2:45, that's when we clean and set up. So we're going to clean our equipment, clean our carts, and get set up for the next day. That is another pro little management tip here, just so you're all aware of this. Setting up today for tomorrow will make tomorrow work better. If you don't set up today, and instead you do it tomorrow morning, know that this 7 to 7:30 time is going to get chewed up very fast. You may not, if you're going to try to get your cart set up at 7 a.m. and your housekeepers can't get on the unit until a cart's set up, you're lucky if you're out there by 7:15, 7:20. Then you have a very small window to see anything. And so it can be quite ineffective, just so we're all on the same page. Does anybody have questions about the way this works? The way this looks? Okay, because we're going to get right into the heart of it. We're going to move quick, like I said. Identifying the importance. Okay, so now that we have our cleaning methodology and we have our timeline, we've figured out exactly how everything is going to ebb and flow, we have to determine what's the most important. So number one is presentation. Number two is disinfecting. And number three is our project work. Which of those three would you say is the most important?
Project work.
I'm sorry? If you could only do one of these, which one would you do?
I would have our staff disinfect because it's the era of COVID, but
Okay. So you're going to say disinfecting is number one. Good. What's number two then? If you could do two of them, what would you do?
presentation, because we still have to sell.
Okay. So area number two would be presentation, which means you're going to put the project work at number three. Is that fair? Okay, good. Thank you. Let's put a timeline on this so that we can actually see what the time looks like. Presentation takes between 1 and 3 minutes. And the reason I say between 1 and 3 minutes is because most of the time when you walk into a resident room first thing in the morning, you don't have to do anything. You look at the floors, you don't see any trash. You look in the trash, there might be garbage in there, but maybe not full of anything that needs to be taken out right away, or not full enough. So a lot of times if there's trash in the trash can, but it's not overflowing, if it's just paper or whatever, I would not pull the trash. I'm going to be in there in a little bit to clean the room. I'll pull the trash then. So I wouldn't do it. I would only do it if there was a dirty diaper in the trash, which is not supposed to happen, but it does happen. Or something if the trash is overflowing. So normally on a walkthrough, a presentation, there's really not a lot going on, which is why sometimes it means zero time. You're in there for less than a minute. And sometimes you have to change the garbage, or you have to add some toilet paper or some paper towel. And so it may be up to 3 minutes. So between 1 and 3 minutes, we're going to call it 2 minutes. So 2 minutes for each room, which means there's 25 rooms. So times 25 rooms. So that means it's going to be 50 minutes to do could take you up to 50 minutes to do a walkthrough. Of course, I only give them 30 minutes. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, because we have more 1 minute than we do 2 minute, and certainly more than 3 minutes. In other words, most of the rooms are you just looking at. You might have to pick something up off the floor, but really isn't a lot. Number two, first thing in the morning, we can't see every resident room. There's a lot of toileting going on, a lot of AM care going on, a lot of doors are shut. A lot of people are still sleeping. There's a lot of rooms we can't see. So it's really about 30 minutes that we give them. But just for these purposes, let's say it's 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes per room. Disinfecting. How much time does it take to disinfect a resident room? I'm going to tell you the answer, and the answer is 8 minutes. 8 minutes times 25 rooms is 3.5 hours. Okay, 3.5 hours to disinfect, spending 8 minutes in a room times 25 rooms is going to take you 3.5 hours. Number 4, project work is 45 minutes a day because we only do one project per housekeeper a day. So that's 45 minutes. So now let's talk about the reasons on why you would have to choose one of these. It's usually because you're short-staffed. So you're short-staffed, which means now you may have, like if I'm short-staffed at the Standard Health and Rehab, that means I went from 2 housekeepers to 1 housekeeper, or I went from 2 housekeepers cleaning 50 rooms to 1 housekeeper cleaning 50 rooms. And so if I gave 1 housekeeper 50 rooms to clean, and I said, I agreed with you that disinfecting is the most important, it's 50 times 8 minutes, it's 7 hours. Can we get the job done? Can I rightfully expect 1 housekeeper to clean 50 rooms given 8 minutes a day, disinfect 50 rooms given that it takes 8 minutes per room? The answer is no. Why no? It's because what I didn't add in here is I have a 15-minute break, I have a 30-minute lunch, and another 15-minute break. That is 1 hour. So I really, and I only work 7.5 hours here. We only work 7.5 hours a day here at the Standard. So we really don't have the time. So disinfecting, although sounds wonderful, we may not be able to do it based on time. Does that make sense?
No, I don't get it.
Okay.
And let me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Please, no.
you said I don't get it. Could you elaborate, please?
Sure. It takes. Let me do it this way. If I have 25 rooms to clean, in the morning, I'm going to do 30 minutes with a walkthrough, my first presentation. I'm going to take 45 minutes to clean the offices. I'm going to take another 45 minutes to clean the non-resident areas, non-res areas. Then I'm going to take a 15-minute break. Right now, I've spent 2 hours and 15 minutes, or 2 hours of the day, right? So that's 2 hours. Well, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes because my break is over. So I spent 2 hours and 15 minutes. Is that fair? So I'm going to have 2 hours in 15. I'm going to have 2 hours and 15 minutes between 9:15 and 11:15. These 2 hours and 15 minutes, I'm cleaning resident rooms, disinfecting. This is my disinfecting. At 12, this is my complete or my project work. At 12, I'm going to take lunch. At 12:30, I'm going to go back to cleaning rooms. So from 12:30 till 2 p.m., this is my break. So here is 90 minutes to continue and finish cleaning or disinfecting my resident rooms. My 2 hours and 15 minutes and my 90 minutes is 3.5 hours. Does that make sense? So I have to disinfect. I only have 3.5 hours to disinfect my rooms. And so because I have 25 rooms, I get 8 minutes, 8 minutes per room. Let's say, I'm going to pull out my calculator here. Let's say that I had 20 rooms. So I'm going to do 3.5. Well, let me do it in minutes because it's a lot easier to do it in minutes. So 210 minutes. And let's say that I had 20 rooms to clean instead of 25. I had 210 minutes to clean 20 rooms. I'm going to divide that by 20 rooms. That means I have 10 minutes and 50 seconds, or 10 and a half minutes, 10 and a half minutes, 10.5 minutes per room to disinfect. That's if I have 20 rooms. If I have 25 rooms, I have 8 minutes. It's actually 210 divided by 25. It's 8 minutes, 8.4 minutes. So what I'm now saying is, if let's say that the answer truly is that anytime you're faced with a short staff situation, our knee jerk, our go-to response, all of us have, is clean toilets, disinfect. Let's do a wipe down of every resident room. And I'm telling you right now, the math doesn't work. You can't do it. You can't have one person clean and disinfect 40 rooms. Not when you're only giving them 10 minutes per room. You can't have one person clean and disinfect 50 rooms. You're only giving them 8 minutes per room. They're not going to have time. And let's say that they did have time. Let's say that we said to our staff, we're like, hey, listen, let me just scroll down here. I want to just have a piece of paper. Let's just say that we said, hey, do us a solid. Okay, we need you to start at room 1, and we need you to go to room 50 today, and we need you to disinfect every room, right? And so the goal is to disinfect every room. And I know that this means that it's going to take you 7 hours. And, if you can get a little faster on that, so, maybe I can let you out early, or maybe I can let you take a little bit of a lunch break, but I can't have you take any more of a break, right? Like I can't have you taking your morning coffee break and your afternoon break because I'm too short staffed. And disinfecting is the most important thing that we do here. And so with peace and love, there's not going to be any breaks today. We're just going to work straight through. Even if we were to say that's going to be our MO, just consider what's going to happen now. We're going to clean room 1 at 7 a.m. We're going to clean room 50 at 3 p.m. And then we're never going to see these rooms between room 1 and room 25, and we're not going to see them all day. So we're going to lose sight. We're never going to backtrack. And so if we go in at 7 a.m. and we clean the room, and then nurses come in and staff come in and the residents in and out of there and family members show up, and do you think the trash is full between 7 and 3 p.m.? Our highest trash producing time in nursing homes, in senior care, is between 7 and 9 a.m. every day, 7 days a week. This is the high trash. We track it. We know it. This is when the most trash is produced, and it's called AM care. AM care produces more trash than at any other time during the day. So if you clean a resident room at 7 a.m. and don't go back until the next day, that is 24 hours. The trash cans wouldn't even be able to hold it, wouldn't even be able to hold all the trash, which is why housekeeping works 7 days a week. Does that make sense? Okay. I was just trying to show you that when you have your cleaning methodology, and your cleaning methodology is different than mine. Okay, this is our cleaning methodology. This is what we do at the Standard Health and Rehab. This is what we teach at the Housekeeping Leadership Academy, which I didn't even tell you about, but we have a whole leadership academy where it's 6 weeks long, and we train housekeeping managers on not only on the operation side, but also on how to manage, how to onboard, how to train employees, communicate, that whole thing. But this is one of the biggest challenges that we have in housekeeping, is when we look at what is the most important to us, we never want to consider this. All right, so my watch is a toilet because I'm hilarious. We never can take into consideration the clock, because let's say that we're on track. We're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing. And let me just erase this so I can have some room. I know this isn't sitting well. I know it, but it's not me. It's the clock. It's not me. Let's say that we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, and it is now 1 p.m. And at 1 p.m., we've had a really great day. These are the few things that we've accomplished today. We've done our morning walkthrough, presentation. We've cleaned the offices, which is really great. We've cleaned the non-resident areas, which is really great. And we got 15 resident rooms cleaned and disinfected. So we've cleaned more than half. We had 15 resident rooms cleaned. Now, at 1 o'clock, or let's say it's 12:30 to make my point a little better because it's right after lunch. 12:30 p.m. This is what we have left. At 12:30, we have 10 resident rooms to clean, and we have a walkthrough that we want to see the entire building. We want to do another presentation. So this is, again, the presentation, and this is the disinfecting. We have 10 resident rooms left, and we have a walkthrough left. That's what we have left. At 12:30, we go in. At 1 o'clock, we find out at 1 p.m., we have 2 room changes. We have 2 room changes. Now, here, 1 is resident room disinfecting, 2 is a walkthrough. What is most likely going to be able to get done? First, let's back up. How long does a room change take? Let's be on the really super fast. Everything is waiting for us. It's the easiest room change we've ever done in our whole lives, and say a room change takes 30 minutes. Let's just say it takes 30 minutes. And heck, let's not say we have 2 room changes. Let's just say we have 1. We only have 1 room change, and it's only going to take us 30 minutes. If you're going to take 30 minutes to do this room change, what are you not going to do? Are you going to give up the walkthrough, or are you going to give up cleaning and disinfecting the other 10 resident rooms? You have a choice. My point is, you have a choice. But your choice is between getting both things done, or getting the walkthrough done, or getting the rest of the disinfecting done. Your choice is not to do both, because you can't do both, because you have to do this room change. If you choose in this scenario, you're like, well, no brainer, forget the walkthrough. Not doing the walkthrough today. We're only going to do cleaning and disinfecting resident rooms. I go, great. But what if it takes you 1 hour? Instead of 30 minutes, what if it takes you 1 hour? Now, you've already said you're not doing the walkthrough, and you're going to do the cleaning and disinfecting resident rooms. But now there's 5 resident rooms you cannot do. Which 5 resident rooms are you not going to do? Here, I'll bring them right here. You just tell me, which rooms do you not want to do today? Which 5? And by the way, by not doing these 5 resident rooms, I don't mean you're just not going to clean them. You're not even going to see them. You're not even going to see them because you ain't got time. You've already chosen disinfecting. And disinfecting requires you in the room 8 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on how many rooms you have. But that's it. You're committed to that time. You maybe you get it to where you only miss 3 rooms. Great. Which 3? Which 3 rooms are you not going to see today? Maybe it's only 1 room. Maybe it's only 2 rooms. Maybe it's 7 rooms. Maybe it's
Why
in addition
wouldn't
to
you?
the, yeah.
Why wouldn't you talk to your team or some other people there to see if there's somebody that could help you from another department that's working? Why?
Okay. It's a fair question. And it's one that I haven't considered. And the reason I haven't considered it is because we are talking about 2 things here. One, I'm talking about starting the day being short-staffed. And so is it possible? I've never seen a situation where I've gone to nursing or another department and said, hey, we're short today. Can we have one of your nurse's aides in housekeeping? I've never seen that work. So that's one. And then number 2, to the other side of that, it would be the same scenario at the end of the day where who isn't busy for nursing between 1 and 3 that they could come and help us in housekeeping. I love the idea.
The administrator, me, I've done it. The associate executive director, her, she's done it.
Yep.
We know how to clean rooms, so if we're short in housekeeping, we pitch in and we help where needed.
I love that. I really love that. What if you're short more than one day?
Well, I can do, you should see how I can do laundry.
No, we're not talking about laundry.
When
We're
we've
talking
been
about
down
housekeeping.
staff with COVID, when we've been down, and housekeeping, when we've been down for a week at a time because we can't hire anybody.
Yeah.
it's managers, and Jo, who's on the call also, she's the EVS manager here, and she cleans too much. She needs a day off. But yeah, so everybody pitches in to try to help.
Yeah, I
Right,
agree.
no.
I'm sorry, I was just thinking about that, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Wouldn't you exclude the offices and just have them go ahead and put those minutes
Yep.
to the resident rooms? I mean, it makes
We
sense
have
to have a trash and dash.
people
or
in the
something.
offices take their own trash out to the
That's right.
dumpster. People in the offices wipe their own stuff down and can vacuum. We don't pull a housekeeper to clean up after a staff member when we have resident rooms that need to be cleaned. We all do our own areas.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Completely agree with you, especially when we start the day being short-staffed. I'm way more interested in going, hey, office staff, you're on your own today, or you're on your own this week. There's a nursing home in upstate New York where the housekeepers don't pull trash out of resident rooms. Nurses do. That was based on a plan of correction because of a deficiency, but I've seen all kinds of scenarios where the workload of housekeeping is shared among departments, but we're not talking about best case scenario here. We're talking about working short-staffed. How do you manage short-staffed? And the only thing I'm inviting you to consider is, number one, understanding the cleaning methodology that you have. And then number two, trying to figure out what is best. What is the best case scenario when everything else falls apart? And I'm only inviting you to consider that the time component is the number one thing, that managing the clock is got to be one of the biggest challenges we have in housekeeping, because we are always faced with, do we clean a room or do we not clean a room? And let me fast forward. Let me go here. Let me show you this. This is, and I'm gonna stay late. So I know I only have 7 minutes left, but I'm willing to stay as long as you guys want to stay. So I apologize that it's a lot to go over. This is our checklist. We created a checklist so that we can keep our staff on task, and because we need to know what we don't get done in a day. And I know that this is not going to sit well with you. I know it isn't. But there's a lot of things that don't get done every day in housekeeping. There's a lot of resident areas that don't get cleaned every day in housekeeping. Maybe not in your facilities per se. I'm just speaking from my own experience. This is how it works for us, though. This is how we combat it. Let me just say it like that. This is how we try to manage it the best we can. So first and foremost, we have a housekeeping daily schedule. This daily schedule has the timeline that I just went over with you. So from 7 to 7:30, let me use a highlighter. From 7 to 7:30, we do our walkthrough of resident rooms. We do ask our housekeeper to initial it, sign off that they were able to get to it. Then from 7:30 to 9, we have our morning assignment. This is when we're doing both office space and non-resident areas. And we ask them just simply to check off everything that they are able to get to. And we don't pay a lot of attention if they miss holes in here, unless it is something like the public bathrooms or the front lobby or the dining rooms. Like, those are areas we really want to make sure that we're getting to. But if they miss, like to your point, the conference room, the business office, the administrator's office, the DON's office, they were like, they can pull their own trash. Totally agree. Here is our resident room cleaning, and we have it in 2 different blocks. From 9:15 to 11:15, we have 15 resident rooms to clean. Only because that's the way the math works out. Because we only have 3.5 hours to clean and disinfect resident rooms, and we have 25 resident rooms to do. It means we could have to do 8 or 15 of them in the morning and 10 of them in the afternoon. So we have 10 or 15 in the morning, and then we have 10 in the afternoon. We also have our complete room schedule. This is our project work we do every day. This is our afternoon walkthrough right here. And we ask them to sign off on it. And then we clean up for the day. And then of course we ask our staff to sign off on this. Now, this is the block I need you to pay attention to, because this is the block that is, this is cleaning and disinfecting. This is the disinfect. This is not the walkthrough part. This is the disinfecting part. So as our housekeepers are going along through the day, they start at 9:15 and they start cleaning rooms, they can start checking off resident rooms. But when they get to room 202, guess what? The door is shut. The door is shut because somebody's being toileted, somebody's getting some type of care, and we have to go back. So they leave it blank and they go to 203 and 204 and 205 and 206 and 207. And they get up here in 208 and guess what? That door is shut too. So they can't get into that room. So they go to 210, 211, 212, 213. Now they go to lunch. When they go to lunch, the question is, without this worksheet, without this form, do they remember to go back to 202 and 208? Sometimes the answer is yes, no brainer. They have a beautiful memory. They're never distracted. They always know where to go back to. Perfect. Love those people. But that's not all my staff. Most of my staff need a reminder that they need to go back to those rooms. So it's nice to have this little check sheet. By the way, this also is derived from the state asking me how many resident rooms does the housekeeper clean a day? And then how do I know that they were cleaned? And so I can't rely on the visual, because oftentimes I will go into a resident room and see it as a mess and say to my housekeeper, when are you going to get to that room? And the housekeeper will say, I already got there an hour ago, but the room's been dirty after that. And that's fair. That could possibly happen. So the checklist works for that area too. Let's say at 12:30, they go right back and they start cleaning rooms. But then at 1:15, 1:20, we get a room change. We get an admission. We get something that has to happen, pulling my housekeeper away from the rooms. Well, look at this. They have these rooms left and they still need to get to room 208 and 202. What the decision that we make is we move to a presentation mode where we find that it is better, more advantageous for our housekeeper, and especially for our resident to do a walkthrough. So we want them to switch or go away from doing the disinfecting. That means they are not going to disinfect these rooms. Instead, I want them to do a walkthrough. I want them to grab their cart and I want you to go see it. If there's a mess, if there's overflowing trash, if they need supplies, I want those things addressed. I want at least the eyeballs on the room. I'd rather eyeballs than no eyeballs, because if there is a big mess, if there is some urine on the floor or something nefarious like that, we have an option of taking care of it. If we just go and do other things and not see the resident room, that's where we're behind the 8 ball. Here's where this gets picked up though. Now, as a manager, I collect these forms every day. This is for my West Hall housekeeper. This is for my East Hall housekeeper. I collect these at the end of every single day and I create the next day's form. And so the next day's form is, let me just do my little thing here. Let me erase all this. This is what my next day's form looks like. My next day's form has me already highlighting the areas they did not get to today. So when my housekeeper starts tomorrow, I'm going to say, hey, please start here and then go here and then get these rooms done before you go back and start here. Now, when we first started looking at this, we were looking at 2 things. So this is not a short staff scenario. This is we got pulled away for something at the end of the day scenario. And it's a couple of doors shut, so we weren't able to get into some resident rooms. Maybe a resident was in there telling us to get out. That happens. So don't come in here. So, okay, so we can't clean right that second. So we'll have to come back. We used to think in terms of having an odd and an even, or an A-B schedule, meaning on Mondays, we want you to start at room 1. And on Tuesdays, we want you to start at room 25. And that way we would go, because that way we make sure that all the rooms are getting done. Because even if there isn't anything distracting that goes on, let's say that we get from room 1 to room 25 every day, no big deal. Most times, most people are better workers, have more energy in the morning, and so therefore spend more time in the morning cleaning than in the afternoon. In the afternoon, we have two things. One, you may be getting tired. Maybe at the end of the day, housekeeping's not easy, right? So you're just getting worn down. And number two, maybe the housekeeper didn't do a good job managing the clock. And so it's 1:30 and they have 5 rooms left. And so they're just going to burn through and try very quickly to clean those 5 rooms. And what happens over time is these 5 rooms, if we always start at room 1 and always end at room 25, and we're always fully staffed and we never have anything pulling us away, these last 5 rooms will always be dirtier than these 5 rooms. Does that make sense?
Ralph, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in this scenario, we just have 2 housekeepers. We haven't talked about a porter. We haven't talked about
That's right. We haven't talked about any of that. That's right.
What about the housekeeping manager? Will we not hold them accountable and have them get those 5 rooms? We pay them salary. That way they can help out the housekeepers and things of that nature.
Yeah, so that's a really fair question. And I really appreciate that most people right now have taken their management team and just put them in the job positions, and which is fine, totally fine. I'm just only going to invite you to consider that you cannot do both. You cannot both be a manager and be an employee at the same time. It's really hard. And for us here at the Standard, we're not big fans of putting managers into a job routine. We're much more effective at putting managers in a role to be able to support and to help. But I mean, I walk into facilities and they're like, hey, the manager's going to clean C wing today. That means they're in a whole job position all day. That means the only thing they see is C wing. They cannot help, they cannot manage, they cannot navigate, they cannot recalculate, they cannot support anybody else in the entire facility because they're now an employee on C wing. So as long as you can go in and out of rooms and help pick up, I'm a big fan of helping. I'm just not a big fan of sliding a manager into a job routine. And you're only supporting, in that scenario, you'd only be supporting one housekeeper and not the other housekeeper, because imagine I have 2 housekeepers. What if they both had 5 rooms left at the end of the day they weren't able to get to? Does my manager now stay late? Do they now work till 5? The answer to many people is yes. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, that's management. Welcome to management. It sucks and you're involved. So here you go. You're going to stay late now. Not for us. We're not like that. We'd much rather manage this effectively, which simply means we're going to see every resident room. Seeing every resident room for us is the most important. Well, project work is the most important, and then seeing every resident room. So let me show you how that works really quick. And by the way, the HLA, the Housekeeping Leadership Academy, we discuss this ad nauseum because there is no one answer. There's not a right answer. There's not a wrong answer. There's many answers in many scenarios. And the more you are exposed to other people's ideas, and the more you're exposed to theory, and the more you're exposed to different ways of doing operations, the more effective or the more tools you're going to have when you're faced with these scenarios. Because again, every building's different. Every staff's different. I could be fully staffed and still not get anything done. You know, we have a big problem with people calling out, and we have a big problem with people calling in. And what calling in is when people show up for work and they still don't do anything. Maybe again, that's only in my facilities, but it can be quite a challenge.
Okay, Ralph, you know what? We're already over time, so just make it quick. How about?
I know, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, so let me just say this. So now I'm trying to figure out what's the most important thing to say. I want to do 2 little quick things. This is my West Hall, this is my East Hall, and this is my modified, if you look right here, this is my modified housekeeping schedule. This is if I'm short-staffed. If I have 4 housekeepers a day, I'm going to have a modified work schedule for what it looks like if I have 4 housekeepers, what it looks like if I have 3 housekeepers, what it looks like if I have 2, what it looks like if I have 1, and what it looks like if I have 0. Because I'm faced with every one of those scenarios all the time. At the Standard Health and Rehab, this is how we manage with 1 housekeeper. Now, as I said, our walkthrough, we rely heavily on our walkthrough when we're short-staffed. because we can see the whole building multiple times a day by focusing on walkthroughs, where if we just said disinfectant, we could only see one resident room at a time all day. So we wouldn't be able to see the whole building, wouldn't be able to have time to go do non-resident areas. We wouldn't see public bathrooms. We wouldn't see front lobby. We wouldn't see anything if we just disinfected every resident room. We wouldn't have the ability to do anything else. So for us, it's walkthrough, walkthrough, walkthrough. Clean and disinfect non-resident areas. We do our complete, and then it's walkthrough, walkthrough, clean equipment. So this way we're seeing the facility, the entire facility, every resident room 5 times, every room with one employee. As opposed to if I focused on disinfecting, I would see the entire building 1 time with 1 employee. So is it better to see the whole facility, every resident room 5 times or 1 time? Be able to handle problems 5 times or 1 time? Right, that's kind of what we're faced with when we're short-staffed. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have. The only other thing that I want to invite you to consider, just real quick, is what a leadership system is. A leadership system, this is how we make these decisions, how we determine what we're doing. A leadership system is this: a decision is made, we communicate the decision, and then we follow up with the decision. So decision goes to communication, communication goes to follow-up. The follow-up creates another decision, because anytime something is not done, when you find out something's not done with the follow-up, it's only 2 reasons. It's your fault or it's not your fault. And there's a whole management theory behind your fault and not your fault. And we always like when it's not your fault, because then it's the elevator broke, or the washing machine went down, or we don't have enough washcloths, or something out of your control is a lot easier to manage than you aren't moving fast enough, or you got here late, or you need to leave early, right? So those kind of things. The follow-up piece is the #1 place most people fail. Most new housekeeping managers fail in the first 90 days. And by fail, I mean they get fired. Most brand new housekeeping managers get fired in the first 90 days. And one of the biggest challenges most new managers have is following up. They get, the decision is being made, hey, we need this project done, we need this room change done, we need whatever happening. They communicate it with their staff, but then they either fail to follow up or they don't follow up timely. And it's this time component that is the most important crucial factor, because if we go way back here in the beginning, this is the situation, or it's the goal of the administrator or the goal of the facility. This situation is going to determine the decision, but the secret decider is, of course, the time. I mean, you could say that an administrator comes to you at 2 o'clock and has decided that they want every resident room cleaned again. Well, we may not have the time to do so. We may say, all right, the decision is we don't want no overtime, but we have 2 room changes and it's 2:30. It may not be possible. We may have to figure out a different way of doing this, right? Does that make sense? This leadership system, the decision, the communication, and the follow-up is when I was talking about in the beginning, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first in management? I'll tell you what came first in management. It is the system. This leadership system is the most, what am I doing? This leadership system is the most important part of management. If you understand where everybody's supposed to be and when they're supposed to be there and how much time it takes to clean a room, and don't take my word for it. Don't take my word for 8 minutes or 10 minutes based on this many rooms or that many rooms. Do a work study. Take out a phone, determine what exactly you want your staff to do. And I could have shown, I ran out of time, I apologize, show you exactly how we clean a resident room, what it looks like, what an 8-minute job looks like, where we clean workable surface areas, how we sweep and mop a resident room, and how we don't have a lot of time. And so determine what you want done in every resident room. And then from there, determine how long it takes. Take out a timer or set your phone timer and just time yourself. And I would recommend that you try to do a multiple room clean in a row. Don't do one room and go, oh, that's how much time. Try doing 3 to 5 rooms. So get your cart ready and do 3 to 5 rooms in a row, and then take that time, divide by how many rooms you've done. And that's probably more of a closer time frame that you have. And by the way, how much time you want to take and how much time you have are sometimes different. And so with peace and love, you know, you have to sometimes go with how much time you have instead of how much time you want to have. Because honestly, I would love to give every one of my housekeepers an hour. Take an hour to clean every resident room.
Hey, Ralph, quick
Have an
question. I'm
hour.
sorry, you may have said this earlier, but who cleans the dining room after dinner?
Yeah, housekeepers do.
Okay.
They clean. So, and again, I was trying to be quick, but so I didn't put out every little nuisance or a little nuance, but our housekeepers clean the dining room when they first get there. And then they clean the dining room right after lunch. And the reason we clean the dining room when we first get there and then after breakfast, the reason we do it right when we get there is because we don't have a night housekeeper. So we don't clean dining rooms after dinner. Instead, we rely heavily on our dietary staff, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But so we always want to lay eyeballs on the dining room first thing in the morning. And our 2 housekeepers split the dining room. So they go in there together, which makes it a little easier. Unless I only have 1 staff. Any other
So
questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said whoever works in that specific unit takes care of the dining area in that unit. Am I right?
No, we only have 2 dining rooms, but one's a restorative dining that's it. You know, there's talk of it becoming an internet cafe for the rehab unit, but we don't use it. It's really not used. It's more of like a activities room at this point. So we only have 1 dining room in our building. But yeah, I mean, generally, if we had dining rooms on every unit, the housekeeper on that unit would own that dining room.
Okay.
And, you know, another thing I didn't talk about is we actually have 3 different job positions at the standard. We have a floor porter, somebody who sweeps and mops and buffs the floors and strips and wax. And they pull heavy trash and soiled linen. We have laundry and we have housekeeping. And so then we also rank all 3 of those positions. Like, which one is the most important? Like, if you had only 1 employee show up, would you put them in housekeeping, laundry, or floor care? If you only had 1 person. And that's, again, saying that nobody in nursing could help. They were short-staffed too. Nobody else is there. It's a Saturday, so no management's there. Would you put them in laundry, housekeeping, or floor care? For us, we'd put them in laundry, because laundry to us is the most important to the operation of the nursing home. It's not going to help with cleaning. It's not going to help with trash pull. It's not going to help with anything, but it is going to enable nursing to be able to do care, to be able to make beds, get residents clean, get them showered, get them dressed. So laundry would be our number 1. The question is, for you, what's your number 2? So you have 2 people showing up. Is it floor care or is it housekeeping? Which is the most important to you? And does it change over time? If you're short-staffed for weeks, do you change it ever? Or do you keep it the same? Like you said, housekeeping is the most important. So you go weeks without having a floor tech? Is that?
Absolutely.
Or do you change it over time? Do you go like, okay, we can have no housekeeper for this amount of time, but we can't go any further than that. We have to change.
Every resident room, I think, and respectively, should be touched on a daily basis and disinfected. If you have a salaried manager, then that person, he or she should step in and do the trash, red bag, so on and so forth, and then help out. But
yeah, no, I completely hear you, and I completely understand how you would come to that conclusion. I totally respect it. But from a clean and dirty point of view, from a sales point of view, from a visual point of view, it might be better to have the entire facility looked after than just specific parts of the facility. And let me put it to you like this too, because with the coronavirus, we had to make a huge decision huge decision because the coronavirus, and it probably happened to you as well. We were hit with two things. Number one, we had a virus that we had to take care of. We're like the entire building became a precaution room, right? The whole building. And we didn't have enough staff. So now what do? How do you wipe down the entire building when you don't have enough staff to even do it without being a precaution? And that was going to force you to decide on what is a high traffic area versus a low traffic area, meaning what part of your facility is touched more often than any other part of your facility? Or to put it another way, and for infection control purposes, what part of your facility is more likely to spread germs and disease and virus than not? When we're talking about the flu, we're talking about a GI bug, something like that, the high traffic areas are handrails, elevator buttons, telephones, doorknobs, employee break rooms, public bathrooms, nurses' stations, shower rooms. All of these are touched by hundreds of people a day. A low traffic area is a resident room. And I know that doesn't sound right, but how many people go into a resident room a day? I mean, let's say it's 10, let's say it's 20, who cares? Let's say it's 20. It's ridiculous to say 20 people going in and out of a resident room every day. But let's say it's 20, say 50, so what? How many people go to the front desk? 200? How many staff do you have? Everybody. How many people go to the time clock in 24 hours? How many people go to the employee break room? How many people use your public bathroom? How many people are going to the nurse's station? Right? Like those are, now you're having to make another decision. Okay, what's a high traffic area? What's a low traffic area? None of these decisions are good. They're not putting us in the best light. We're trying to manage a department that is short-staffed. This whole workshop, this whole seminar is about how to manage when you're short-staffed, not how do you get it done when you can get it all done. You don't need that seminar. You don't need to have difficult conversations to go, hey, we have full staff or everybody's willing to do everything so everything can get done. That's not this seminar. You don't need that. That's great. That's fantastic. Love those days. Haven't had one in a while, but we love those days. This is how do you manage effectively? How do you see every resident room? How do you do as much as you can and whatever? And how do you ensure whatever you can't get done today, you get done tomorrow? How do you track it? How do you know what you didn't get done today so that you can take care of it tomorrow? How are you tracking? How do you know? With that, my friends, I'm going to call this end. And I'm so sorry about it being late. I apologize. I'm going to have to reduce this seminar down.
Yes, you'll have to reduce it next time. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know you have something coming up, so just send them that information. That'll be fine.
Housekeeper Leadership Academy. It's not for people who have perfect buildings. It's not for people who know everything about management. I'll tell you that. It's for people who are trying to figure out how to get it done on a daily basis, and we're not always successful. So
right. Thank you.